Okay, so what I'm talking about today is life is an echo. What you send out comes back to you. How about that? Yeah, life is an echo. What you send out comes back. What you sow, you reap. What you give, you get. What you see in others exists in you. We need to really be careful about that when we're criticizing someone else. Remember the lens through which you are looking. And many times there, if it's a mirror, there will be a finger pointed right back at you. Regardless of who you are or what you do, if you're looking for the best way to reap the most rewards in all areas of your life, look for the good in every person, every situation, and adopt the golden rule as a way of life. And what is that? That's the rule that Jesus of Nazareth gave us when he said, "Do unto others as you would have others do unto you." And that's not just in deeds, but that's in words and thoughts. When you find yourself having a thought of somebody as a corrupt person and a horrible person and this, that, and the other, could you stop yourself right in the middle of it and see that person as a child of God? Perhaps they're on this earth doing what they're doing, so it will be a lesson to you. So maybe when you turn that around, you can say, I'm thankful for this other person, because had it not been for what they're doing, I might have fallen into some vague way of doing the same thing. Not exactly that, but maybe similar. There's always a lesson in whatever it is that comes your way. Florence Scovel Shinn was a New Thought writer, and she taught and she wrote some books. And I happened to be in Steve's class at 9 o'clock a few weeks ago, and he was reading some quotes from her one of her books, and she says the game of life is a game of boomerangs. Our thoughts, deeds, and words return to us sooner or later with astounding accuracy. How about that? If I've been gossiping about someone else, I need to quit. I need to just stop. This is what I just absolutely love. It couldn't have happened at a better time. Curses like chickens come home to roost. Anybody seen any of that lately? You're cursing someone else, and the next thing you know, it's come back around to you. So be careful. The curses you send out to others. What is the law of giving and receiving? Well, let me first say what it's not, okay? In the last, I guess 20 years or so, is that how long it's been? We've talked about the concept of the law of attraction has had so much, it's in the media everywhere, on television or books or whatever. And of course the law of attraction works, but one of the things it leaves God out of the equation totally. I think in the book, The Secret, they didn't even mention God until the last page. And we know that through the Old Testament and the New Testament, that there are words from many, many of the writers that spoke of the law of giving and receiving. And so that's what we're talking about today, and especially Jesus when he said, "Do unto others as you would have others do unto you." So what is the law? Or one other thing. It's not giving to get, okay? So many times people give so they'll get something in return. They give only so they'll get something in return. And maybe it's a donation. And that's why I was careful to spell out, this isn't about me at all. When I mentioned just sponsoring this thing for Nay, not about me at all. Sometimes, though, people will do a donation so they can get credit for it in the news or whatever, or they'll do this. It's none of that. That has nothing to do with the law of giving and receiving. You give because you give from the heart. You give because you want to. You want to do it. Not because you're compelled to do it so you'll get something back or someone thinks you should. It's because you want to. So every day when we get up, we say, this is a wonderful day. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a wonderful day for me, and I'm bringing all my good to me today. Don't start out with anything negative. Because we're working with the law of giving, receiving. It's a universal law. There's a magnetic pull or energy in all things that brings to us what we send out. And we don't have to understand how it works. I don't. I'll be the first to tell you. I don't understand that, but I know it does. Because I've seen the results. The more you use it, the more obvious it becomes. I have 3 instances this week alone where I'd been praying for another. And how do I pray for others? We talked about that with the daily word today. There are no coincidences, right? I didn't know what the daily word was going to be. But when we pray for others, many times they've asked us to pray for them. But what we want to pray for is their absolute highest good. Their absolute highest good. And not have a preconceived notion in our own head what is their highest good. We don't know. Because their highest good may not be what we think it is. So we release that. But I had 3 instances this week, and they were pretty major, of where I could see that prayer works, giving works. And not for myself, but it works. What goes around comes around is another saying. Some people call it the boomerang effect. What you throw out there is going to come back to you. There's an old Jewish joke that says there was a man who said to God, "This is terrible." God says, "Terrible? Just wait, you haven't seen anything yet." So the man then says, "Well, this is great." And God says, "Great? You haven't seen anything yet. Just hang on." Can you relate to that? Anything in that you can relate to at all? So how does it work? What you send out comes back. What you sow, you reap. What you give, you get. What you see in others exists in you. I'd like to hold right now, just for a moment, if you would hold in your mind someone that you have really sent some hate vibes to this week. And I'm going to ask you if you're willing to send that person a blessing. To send that person a blessing. And then ask, if you would, God, could I see this person, could I see this situation with your eyes instead of the judgmental ones? I'm going to hold that person in love this week. Oh, and that lovely song, there is only love. What does that mean? There is only love. Hold that in your heart for a moment too. How does that work with something that you have a grudge about at the moment? There's only love in the universe, and I'm going to send that out. I hold you in my heart. There may be someone that you would like to ask forgiveness of. Hold them in your mind's eye too. Say, I'm truly sorry. It was not my intention to hurt you. I ask that you would forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And then place God right on it, in that situation. You may have a situation in your life that is so difficult, and you and the others have totally different consciousness. And you may need to visibly take the scissors and cut those cords, right? You may need to do that. And I would ask you to do that now, if you would. Forgive them, but you may need to put some space between you and them. I wish you peace. I wish you love. I wish you well. I wish you prosperity and abundance in your life. As you go your way and I go mine, let us separate in peace, knowing that we don't need to occupy the same space together at this moment in our lives. And continuing with the how does it work as you do unto others as you would have others do unto you. You unlock the golden principle of life. What will it do for you? It will improve your life in all ways. And it will bring peace of heart and mind. Sometimes we have a scarcity mentality. And I've been thinking about that this week too. And it shows up sometimes in how we will look at things. Oh, I can't afford to do that. I can't possibly do that because it's something that you were formed with, your formation as you were a child. Well, I can't afford to give to somebody else. And the truth is, you can break some of those bonds anytime you want to. And what I'm talking about today indicates that sometimes you give when you don't even know you have anything to give, or you don't have anything to give. I've seen people give when all they had was a can of corn on their shelf. But at least they had that. So they gave a quarter. I knew of a woman who was a young single woman struggling in every way, going to school, had a child to support, and could barely afford the vehicle she had and the rent that she paid. And she knew of a neighbor that had a need. She had a couple of neighbors, and they both were a bit limited. And they sometimes did things that weren't the wisest, but they had gone swimming in a lake. And these were young adults, just very young adults. He was swimming and he lost he had an upper for his teeth, and he lost it. Excuse me. And so this woman was talking to the neighbor about how difficult this was, and they weren't going to be able to afford to get those dentures for a long, long, long time. And this woman now, who barely scraped by, took $170. It's what she had in her savings account for herself and her child, and she took it and she gave it to them. And her life has been immensely, immensely blessed ever since that moment. And that man was able to go to the dentist, and I'm sure they gave him a little bit of a discount too. And he got a partial so that he could go to work and not be embarrassed. And sometimes, you'll say, well, I'll give when I can. No, that's not the way it works. You give now. Somebody will be sitting on a mountain of money, and they'll decide they're going to give $10 to a need or something, and you're thinking, well, where did that scarcity attitude come from? I don't know. I don't understand that. What sort of scarcity is that? Listen, I grew up poor too. Maybe it's why I understand. And my mom and dad, they weren't perfect. There were a lot of things not perfect about them, but we had an open door. And my mother fed the neighbors because they were hungry. Not because their parents worked and they should have fed them. She fed them because they were hungry and they were children, and she didn't care what the parents did. And I'll tell you what the parents did. The mother worked and blew her money on whatever was coming down the pike, and the dad drank his money away. He made good money. He drank every bit of it away. And I remember my dad having a couple of conversations with him. The man's name was Wayne. And I remember him calling my dad in the middle of the night I need help, Dan. He's been arrested again or something, I need help. And I remember my dad helped him out of some situations several times. We'd go get him, he's at the jail or whatever. And the last time he called, woke my dad up in the middle of the night, everybody up. You had one phone that was in the living room, and woke the whole household up. And my dad says, Wayne, I need help too. Now you just learn how to help yourself, and he hung up on him. Now what did he do? He used his powers of wisdom and discernment to know. This is an endless cycle, and this isn't helping anybody, especially him. And it's not helping his kids, his 6 kids that are sitting there with nothing to eat during the week, and he's drinking it away. Okay. And another thing is scarcity, thinking that the universe has only 1 or 2 opportunities for me, and that's it, and I'm not going to get any more. Okay? So don't have a scarcity mindset where you think, this is past, that's gone, I'm not ever going to get an opportunity again. Richard Branson said, opportunities are like buses. There's always another one coming. Okay? And if you're on a board of an organization, if you're on a committee, if you're head of a family, if you're in a team in your own life, consider this, and to think anything else is to have a scarcity mindset. And all the great wisdom teachers have told us that we have the light within us and we can do what they did. Sometimes we refuse to know that. Send out only what you want to receive. Observe your thoughts, your words, your actions. Is this something you'd want to receive? Some of the thoughts you're sending out about another. Express gratitude daily. We have a cheerleader over here, Matt. Stand up, Matt. This is our Express Gratitude Daily cheerleader. Thank you. And if you want to know about that, you can ask him. Take note of all the things you're grateful for. If you're not grateful for what you have, you're not going to get more. Okay? Watch for synchronicities that prove this universal law. Reframe a scarcity mindset. There are no missed opportunities. Trust the universe to work its magic. And remaining open for the best. And indeed, what I want to do when I leave here on Sundays, when if you see me during the week, if we're in a meeting, I have the full intention of walking the talk. Don't always do it, but it is certainly my intention. And since I have the young people's attention and they're sitting here and they have no choice but to listen to me, hey y'all, I want you to do what our friend Mark suggested, okay? He went through a pretty long time after he went to college and got his degree in video and visual arts. He's highly qualified at what he does. And you know what he did while he was waiting for the perfect opportunity to come? He remembered there was a light within him. He remembered the words of Jesus, "You can do what I do." And he stayed faithful and positive. I thank you so much for being here today. I thank you for supporting what we do and being in fellowship with all of us to want to make the world a better place. We're blessed you came. Thank you for your time.